I think when women are truly and wholly just themselves, I think that's when we offer that real gift. My name is Revd Laura Wheatley Downs, and I'm the vicar at St John the Baptist Parish Church over in Crowthorne. Yeah, what does my faith mean to me? It means everything to me. It's never really been something separate from me. It's something that's lived within me. It's the thing that keeps me grounded, that heals my wounds from the past, that calls me into something different in the future. And I honestly don't know what I would do if I didn't have that lens through which I see the world around me. For myself, as it is for quite a lot of women, that sort of small, quiet voice within you sort of needed to be affirmed by lots of other people first before I would even consider it. And slowly but surely, I think there were just lots of people who said, "Come on, Laura, just go for it, have those conversations." And so I did. But one of the things that really led me into wanting to serve the church and be within the church itself are some of the sort of lay roles that I'd had previously. So even from the age of 16, I've been involved in church work through particularly youth and community work. And I just love how young people come to life with just such raw honesty. And for me, they taught me a lot about who God was in that, what it means to welcome. But interestingly, it was my role outside of the church. So I joined a sort of more secular charity doing youth and community work up in Banbury. And actually it was there where I realised, do you know what, I can't live without the church. I can't live without the church, because young people would still ask me questions about Jesus, even though that wasn't my role anymore. And from there on in, I was like, okay, no, I think this is something that I'm okay at, and people like to talk about around me. And so sort of found my way back into the church. I found myself really blessed, being encouraged by loads of women going forward for ordination, and not just ordination, but in all those other roles in the church. I grew up surrounded by these two women who served God out of themselves, who knew who they were in spite of the occasional opposition, who used their creativity and their God-given gifts to serve, and constantly sought to build other people up in their ministry. And so I felt incredibly blessed growing up that, you know, I had these two female ministers in my church who were encouraging me in my leadership, giving me opportunities from a really young age, like 13, 14, to speak publicly, to pray, to lead worship. And actually it was only moving into the Church of England that I realised that wasn't always the case. It wasn't normal. And I kind of thought, what do you mean women aren't accepted as leaders? For me, it was like this really alien thing, because I just had grown up with that. Of course, there's still those women in the Church of England who said, go for it, and were honest about their experiences. I think that's something I really valued. You know, they didn't gloss over their experience in the church, but said, you know, it's hard, but it's worth it. During lockdown, I decided to take on a PhD. And so my PhD is focusing on trauma-induced shame and reconciliation. So in a nutshell, really what I'm looking to research and explore is the relationship between the shame and trauma that's felt by survivors of interpersonal abuse and the doctrine of reconciliation, which is held in the church. I'll really want to explore how we might do that in a way that brings life to other people. I believe that's what Jesus calls us to. I believe that's what Jesus does for us. It has really impacted my parish life. I often come across survivors of abuse, and that will nearly always be a question that they'll ask is, what does God expect of me when it comes to forgiveness? And I hope that my research will help equip us as church leaders, as those who walk alongside survivors of abuse, to know how to answer that question and journey alongside them. When it comes to the role of women in the church, I think we've had a far bigger role than anybody would like to admit. I think, you know, even if we look through scripture, women are just there. Even if we're not named, we're there, and hold a pivotal role in telling God's story, in serving others, through God blessing the whole of creation through women. And I think quite often the church likes to silence that. Quite often, you know, you notice in my lectionary, where are the women? They're not in the lectionary. And so I think women have had a huge role. It's just that we've not always had our eyes open to see what they've done and what they're doing. And I think women increasingly now within the Church of England and in other denominations as well are obviously feeling more confident in bringing themselves forward for things. I think people are allowing them into that space, and I think allow is quite a good word for that. It's not necessarily always having the energy and the excitement of what these women bring with their gifts, but perhaps creating space for them. The women that I've spoken to, and I'd consider my peers, are growing into who they are as women, as leaders, and seeing the different gifts that we might perhaps have to offer the church. And when we're bringing those gifts, how sometimes they're received warmly and at other times are not received at all, or taken on board as an idea by a man or whoever else might be in the room. But I think there's so much more that we could do. And I think part of that has to happen systemically and structurally for women. I think when women are truly and wholly just themselves, just as they are in that space, I think that's when we offer that real gift, without falling into the trap of thinking we have to do it all perfectly well. I think so often we have that voice that can be silenced out by other people, but place those people around you who you know are going to support you, who are going to encourage you, because sometimes you will come across people who just don't see potentially what other people see, or will see particular traits that are heralded in men as difficult in women. Put those support networks in place, because the gift that you hold within yourself is something that is able to be shared and something that the church should readily accept and celebrate. As an encouragement, I would say if God's called you to it, there will be those things that are put in place that will just surprise you and shock you as to the goodness of God. For the times where that doesn't always happen, put those people around you to support you and love you and care for you. But most of all, I just encourage you to do it because the church needs you. And we offer a brilliant gift to those around us when we are truly and fully ourselves.